Robert J. Conley here, live on Instagram and YouTube. Apparently, it's Band Week with Bob. I have another very informative video I want to recommend to you, and it is called Bon Jovi, When We Were Beautiful, and I'll put a link in the show notes. The lesson in this is really to observe intuitives in action, and that intuitives we hold the key to a better tomorrow, and it's in our creativity that we have the ability to do this. So your ability to execute or to have people execute on your intuition is what makes the difference. And this documentary, in my mind, does an excellent job of presenting some of the realities of that. And, it's fun because bands and in this documentary, you're allowed access into a world that is, believe it or not, very similar to very, very much every other world. As John Bon Jovi points out, yeah, he's the lead singer of Bon Jovi's, but he's also the CEO of a major corporation, and he has managed that brand at the time of the documentary for 25 years. I think he's now at 35 years. So your ability to take your vision and to have it executed on is what really matters. And so I refer to students of the game, and students of the game are just people who are dedicated, not just to playing the game, but to studying the game. And so if you are committed to your own growth and you're in fact a student of the game, then here's a great game film to watch. So Bon Jovi stands as the CEO and as the name on the door and the brand. And I'll talk in a minute about some of the pluses and minuses of that part of the game. His number two man at the time, who has since left the band, Richie Sambora. And Richie Sambora, you can see him in the documentary talking about the fact that he understood that their success depended on a happy John Bon Jovi. And so he came in with a commitment to being John's right-hand man. And that is another critical component for any successful organization. It's not just the mood of the CEO, it's the mood of everyone. And Sambora came from a perspective of that commitment of good morale. Now, interestingly, he left the band for what the explanation was, that his daughter needed him and that he needed to be present to his family. And so what you can see is that his commitment to mood transcended the band. It basically included everyone, and he prioritized his family over the band, and a commitment to mood and morale and productivity, specifically of his daughter, which caused him to leave. Third person, Tico Torres is the drummer. So what are the drummers? The drummers are in charge of the rhythm section, and rhythm is all about timing and keeping the band on time in the music. So Tico, interestingly, talks about he considers himself. First of all, he made the comment about how John is always looking forward. John is always scanning the horizon for opportunity and for all the things that a CEO does. And then he talks about himself being probably the most in the moment member of the band. Now, interestingly, Tico had developed quite a drinking problem, and in getting sober, he discovered the game of golf. He reconnected with his love of art, and John Bon Jovi observed he also developed an entirely new circle of friends, and that's one of the things with when you speak with people who have gone from issues with sobriety to complete sobriety, that oftentimes necessitates a complete circle of friends, which can be intimidating at first. And then when you go through it and come out of it, you're like, wow, this is a whole new wonderful world that I couldn't see for myself previously. So the third member is David Bryan. He's the keyboard. and keyboards are about harmony, and he has a commitment to harmony, and he lends insight to having his own vision of what he wants to do. But in Bon Jovi, he melds his vision into John's vision. He submits to John's vision for the sake of that band. But what he has also done with John's blessing and from his own creative being is pursued outside interests, including writing plays and creating other music. And so, as a fulfilled member of that band, he also needed to have his own stuff that would fuel himself. It couldn't be complete submission to the band. So, a couple of comments from John Bon Jovi that sunk in with me, and I think should resonate with every intuitive, because I think intuitives kind of have this battle of, the balance between that which comes from within, and which your intuition, which comes from within, and which is misunderstood by many. And so one of the critical things that he says, art is subjective. It doesn't matter who does or doesn't like my music. We have fans who like our music. And so intuitives will sometimes question their own intuition and submit to people who can't appreciate or see it, as opposed to saying, well, it's all subjective. This is my intuition. I need to find the audience that wants my intuition. In other words, I need to find the company. I need to find the organization that has what I have. And instead, intuitives will stick around and suffer in organizations that give zero value to their intuition. So one of the big bullet points for intuitives: own your intuition and be committed to finding the audience that wants it, not sacrificing yourself to a group that has no appreciation for it. And along the very similar lines, he talks about just that whole thing, even as successful as he is finding that balance between giving others what they want and doing what you want and feeding yourself. And Bon Jovi talks about having a whole catalog of songs that he loves that the fans don't necessarily love. So he'll sneak one or two in at a concert, but if he gave a concert of just songs that he loved, they'd probably hang him. Anyway, another aspect of when you become successful, one of the realities is that you become a target, and it's kind of like human nature to want to punch you in the nose and take you down. And so don't let that overwhelm you before you've had success, the thought of it. But when it starts to come about, just go, oh, okay, this is natural. This is part of the game. I'm going to learn how to deal with this, and I'm not going to let it get me down or take me down. Richie, who is all about mood, was also had the insight though to study John and seeing that John has succeeded because John is a dedicated student of the game, and he has combined study and thought with a lot of trial and error. And I've talked about this in previous videos. Trial and error is the scientifically proven method of knowing whether or not something works. And, for those of you that have been watching my videos since the beginning of the year, you're living through my own trial and error. And hopefully I'm illustrating for you that you just got to put it out there, and you've got to keep working on it and keep getting better and better. John talks about the disadvantage or the challenge of having your name on the door, being the brand. While the others are out having fun, going to concerts, playing golf, whatever, he's on the phone. He's on the phone with lawyers and promoters, and he's dealing with the business side of that. And as someone who has had his own name on the door, I can tell you that is a reality of life. And yet, for those of us that make that choice, at some level, we'd rather be doing that than actually out playing golf. So, anyway. So then John also shares that, he goes, at the end of the day, this is not that romantic of a life. It can be pretty doggone lonely. And that, again, is something that is true for every business. Being the leader, you are the person who has to call the shots. You have to make the things happen. And there is a certain loneliness that comes with that. And that's why it's also important to balance your life with, other things that can make up for that. Um, he Bon Jovi cites about how, so much of it is just blind faith. Blind faith has pulled me through this life, and faith in ourselves, faith in the process, faith in God, hopefully, are things that keep us going and are what can sustain us in those challenging times where we might otherwise doubt ourselves. And faith is a choice. I choose to have faith in my abilities, in my team, in the process, in whatever it is. But that faith is what will keep you going when you are an intuitive person who is trying to make something happen without proof, without absolute proof that it will work. So the thing I want to close on is, first of all, I really urge you to watch this entire video, especially if you're an intuitive person. You will get so much out of this video and see the challenges, that it doesn't matter that it's a rock band. This is what happens in the life of any creative, intuitive person. And what I want you to know, because I've lived this myself, you don't need to be in a stadium of 60,000 people. You don't need to be a rock star. You don't need any of that to every day feel as good as you do after a great rock concert. If you will commit to living according to your temperament, your natural abilities, having your value, being aligned with your values, and doing things that are of interest to you, you can end every day feeling as physically good as you do after a wonderful concert. And there are some challenges up front to get to that place, but they are so worth the sweet reward of then living that every day. I am Robert J. Conley. That's what I've got for you today. If you watch this, if you like this video or learn from it, please hit subscribe. Please hit like. For reasons I don't know, that supposedly helps me with YouTube and with Instagram. That's what I've got. See you tomorrow.